afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, yes.
So thank you for having me here today, and I want to share some information with you that I think is very important for you to think about in terms of experiences you may have in the future. Hopefully you haven't had it up to this point, and hopefully never have an experience where, quite frankly, someone rips you off. And when that happens, we always look back and say, how did that happen? What made that happen? Was it my fault? Whose fault was it? So I teach fraud at Clare State University. And I tell my students the number one factor related to a fraud occurring is trust. Trust must exist because the person committing the fraud must have your trust in order to fool you in some way and to take something from you. But trust is a funny thing. And I'll tell you why, and what Wendy said was very true. I'm going to imitate her a little bit. Right now, watch my body language. Trust no one. I don't trust anybody. Now, when someone says that, don't they seem a little angry, unhappy? And we've all heard people say that to us. I don't trust anybody. And you look at that and you say, well, I don't want to feel that way. I don't want to have to not trust anybody. We have this innate human nature that we want to trust people. Because when we trust, we feel better. Don't we? When we think about the people we trust, they make us feel better. So we desire to have that feeling, whether it's with our spouse, our children, our friends, people we work with, and how about this one? The government. We want to trust them, but that one we know better, right? So, we're at a disadvantage all of us, when it comes to potentially being ripped off because we want to trust people. Now, I will give you an example, right, of a massive fraud, and then I'm going to bring it back just very quickly, right? The biggest fraud that was ever committed that we know of, right, was Bernie Madoff, right? Everybody know about that, right? He stole so much money, we don't even know how much he stole. Right? 60 billion, 50 billion, some crazy amount. And then after it happens, everybody turns around and says, how could it be possible that someone can steal $50 billion? One word: trust. People trusted him. And he went after the people that he knew would inherently trust him. Most of his victims, not all, most of his victims were Jewish, because he was Jewish. So there was the built-in feeling of, he's like me. I can relate to him. He'll never rip me off. But we all have that feeling, right? We all have that feeling. So I know the other panelists are going to address how these frauds occur. But the truth of the matter is that if you're going to be a victim of a fraud, it may very well come from someone you trust and someone you're close to. Now that's really hard to prevent, especially because we don't want to go through our lives having that feeling, I don't trust anybody. Right? That just doesn't feel good. So what we need to do is do what Ronald Reagan said. And I'm sure you will remember the quote when he was dealing with Mikhail Gorbachev, right? And they were going to do a deal on nuclear weapons, right? It was trust but verify. So if you're going to have a relationship with someone, you have to have trust to a certain extent. That makes us feel good. But we just have to verify. There's just that little asterisk of verify. So how do we do that when it comes to we are entrusting, shall we say, our children or other people, professionals that we're hiring to protect us? How do we verify that? That's the hard part, because that verification is not convenient. There's some work to be done there. So we have to think about, as we entrust people to take care of our assets, that we're going to put in some type of system of checks and balances, right? We're going to trust somebody, but we're going to have something else to make sure that we don't have a problem. So what you need to think about, therefore, is whoever you're going to entrust with your money or anything in your life, is that you trust someone and perhaps have another person overseeing what they're doing. Now, most of us, when we think about who we're going to trust, we think first our children. We're going to trust our children to take care of us. Why would our children rip us off? Why would they do that? We certainly don't expect that, but it happens. But we have to come back a little bit and think, what's their intention? Sometimes the people that are ripping us off actually have good intention. So I'll give you an example of things that I have seen related to children, the people that we trust the most. So, you entrust one of your children with your assets. They're going to make sure that you take care, or they're going to make sure that they take care of everything for you. But herein lies the problem. You have more than one child. And the child that is providing care for you looks at their siblings and says, so-and-so isn't doing anything. I have to do everything for my parents. And they say, you know what? I deserve a little more. And then they start to rationalize why they should be getting paid with your assets, right? They should be getting paid. They don't mean to take your money. They're just mad at their siblings for doing nothing. And therein lies the problem. So even with good intent, sometimes our children will be in a position, because they have control over our assets, where they just start taking a little bit and taking a little bit more, but they don't think they're taking it from you. They're actually taking it from their do-nothing siblings, right? And that's what we see most of the time. So what I would say to you in closing, we need to trust, we need to verify, which at times you need to think about. If you have one of your children in charge, have someone just take a look at what they're doing, whether it's your accountant, lawyer, or one of your other children. Thank you.